What's cracking, guys? Bruce Matson here, your host show of Metric Scout Fantasy Football, and I got another mock draft for us to go over today. It's from PFF, Pro Football Focus. It's a 2-rounder, so maybe we'll get to see some extra skill players, but really what we're going to do is comb through the mock draft, look at the skill players, where they're going, the quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, see where they're going, analyze how that value could rise or increase in Dynasty Fantasy Football and rookie drafts, whatever, and then go from there. It's just an exercise we do. We've been doing all the mock drafts all off season, and we're going to keep on keeping on. With that being said, let's take a look at PFF's 2-round mock draft. I want to look at the headline here because that usually gives us a tell of their clickbait, and the first thing you see is Desmond Ritter. You also see Chris Olave reconnects with Justin Fields, so you kind of got a good feel of what's going on here. Something's going to go on with Desmond Ritter. I already know what's going to happen, but it's something, all right. But let's move on down the mock. PFF's mocks are a little different because they like to tout their grades, tout their statistics, and they'll have some guys bumped up or moved around higher or lower than expected. Again, this draft is high on defense, high on offensive line, so we're going to be scooting past these guys a little bit. But free look at some of this draft here, so if you want to look at those positions, just watch me scroll. I'll scroll a little slow for you, and I'll stop when I get to one of our guys. So next player coming up here. Boom. Atlanta Falcons. 8 overall. Drafting Desmond Ritter. First off, it's not going to happen. He's not going 8 overall. We already know this. It's pretty much common sense at this point. However, we got to pretend this is real life from a fantasy football perspective. He has some Konami code in his game. He's not a Konami code quarterback, but he can run with it a little bit. He can scramble. He's got Kyle Pitts there. Imagine his team's going to upgrade the wide receiver position. They have to, so they may be bringing in some more bodies later in this draft. Is this a great fit? Not really. Is this going to increase his value in Superflex? Yeah, especially drafting in the top 10. Would I be jumping out the way or doing my best to get him in drafts? Not really. I'd probably let others draft him and fade him a bit. However, I would be a little curious, and I will take him if he goes at a discount. Let's move on down here. Farther into the draft. Boom. Washington Commanders drafting Garrett Wilson. So we're going to have Ohio State connection with him and McLaurin there. Both running routes at receivers. And you got Curtis Samuel. I imagine that was the storyline playing in their mind when they made just pick for the mock draft. That's probably what they were like. Let's get 3 Ohio State wide receivers on the same team. This could be all right. Carson Wentz there, that's going to be an interesting fit. This is going to be an interesting offense. How would I like him as a fantasy asset? I like the talent. I feel like he'd be a good long-term producer. I feel like he'll fall a little bit in fantasy. This seems like a mucky situation, but overall, I do like his talent. I'm not going to fade him too much. Moving on down here. Keeping on going. Drake London to the Eagles. Drake London, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. That seems like a fun trio. Devonta Smith and Drake London, they do a lot of different things. London likes to get downfield, get those deep balls, kind of like a Mike Evans. Devonta Smith's got the deep ball game, short area quickness and all that. Those two guys can feed off each other. I really like that tandem. I don't see that happening. I see him getting drafted a lot higher than this. But for a fantasy football perspective, I would be buying him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. I'd be trying to get all 3. And I like London in this spot. I think this is a great spot for him to go to. I get it. A lot of people don't like Hurts, but I think this is an all right spot for him for the long term. And if the market doesn't like him, I'll gladly buy the dip. Moving on down, Olave to the Bears, him and Justin Fields. Honestly, him and Fields would probably be a good match. That'd be a great match. We've already seen it happen. It gives some continuity for Fields. Olave has his quarterback. They'd probably transition well together. Would this make him a wide receiver 1? More than likely not. Will he get opportunities to be a volatile wide receiver 2? I would think so. I would think he'd get some of those opportunities, but I think this would be a good fit for him. I think his fantasy value, his overall draft stock and rookie drafts would borderline stay the same. Maybe early second round, the late first round-ish, somewhere around there. Moving down here, Jamison Williams to the Chargers. I absolutely love this fit for him and for that team. You're getting speed and a deep threat. Keenan Allen's not the fastest guy. Mike Williams isn't the fastest guy. This guy has got speed to burn. This guy adds dynamic to the offense. Him and Justin Herbert would be a great pair. The Chargers can wait a little bit on the ACL, let it heal, put him in there a little bit. I think this is going to bump up his stock, probably get him to a mid-round first, maybe even higher if people really start chattering him up. But I do love this landing spot for him for fantasy. Moving on down, in the comments, shout it out on the defense and offensive line. If someone's being overdrafted or you don't like the fit or something, let us all know. But here, we're going to the Steelers, and they draft Malik Willis, fantasy football's dandy quarterback. And I think this is the best fit overall for him. Probably the best place for him to go because they already have the pieces in place, skilled position-wise. They still got to build up that offensive line a good bit. But they have Deontay Johnson, they have Chase Claypool, you got Najee Harris, you got Pat Freiermuth. All those pieces are younger, so he can develop with them. He's got a good chance of developing there. And you know they're going to bring in the offensive line. You know they're going to build around him. And we know that they're going to add more pieces to build this team and build around him. I think this is the best spot for him. And ultimately, he'd still be in the 101, 102 range in Superflex rookie drafts. Moving on down here. At 22, the Packers select their wide receiver, and it's Christian Watson from North Dakota State. Honestly, when I think about him, I think Packers for some reason. I think it's just because the colors at North Dakota State kind of similar. But this guy is a size-adjusted athlete. He's got speed for days, moves well. I like to see how he transitions to the NFL level, going from a small school, hasn't played in very many games in the last few years, to coming now to Green Bay and see how that would develop. I feel like he'll be overdrafted a little bit. I feel like people will be pumping him up. Could allow me to get the receivers that I actually want on my fantasy team. Maybe even like a George Pickens or something like that will fall farther to me in the draft, and I can buy those dips. Next player coming off the board here, Jahan Dodson to the Buffalo Bills. Very interesting landing spot. I feel like this is horrible for him in fantasy. He's not going to outplay Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis is there. Those two would just be competing with each other. They'd probably cannibalize each other, especially if Dodson transitions and develops. I'm not really sold on Jahan Dodson. I feel like we're being sold a bill of goods on him, especially with him getting that first-round draft capital. I feel like he's overpriced. Again, 178-pound wide receiver. I feel like at high, he can be in the mix with some of the wide receiver twos, and we got like 90 of them in the league. And on the low, he's just a role player. With him being a first-round pick here to the Bills, he might get an opportunity to see some targets. He might have some boom seasons off and on, but I really see him more as a volatile option. And I'm probably not going to be paying for him in rookie drafts. Someone's probably going to be drafting him way ahead of what I'm going to be willing to draft him at. Moving on down here, Sky Moore to the Tennessee Titans. We got a lot of A.J. Brown chatter right now. We don't know what's happening with that. We don't know if he's getting traded or what. Let's pretend he's still on the team in this scenario. But this gets them a quality slot receiver with speed. It's kind of dynamic. He can run a lot of different routes. I don't see him going this high in the draft. I know I've been talking all year that he's going to be drafted higher than expected, but this is higher than expected. I feel like a second round is appropriate for Sky Moore. First round's a little high. I do like him a lot as a receiver. I don't mind paying up for him in the real draft, fantasy, rookie drafts, but 26 overall is kind of high for an asset like this, especially a slot receiver. You can get slot receivers later in the draft. You can just plug in and hope for the best. 5'10", 195, got speed to burn and good short area quickness from a fantasy football perspective. Once this team ever opens up the passing game, which it will happen sometime down the line, maybe 2, 3, 4 years from now, Moore's going to be on that team, and that could allow him to see a bump up in production. With A.J. Brown being there, seeing a large portion of targets, Derrick Henry still being there, I feel like you can still catch him at a discount, even though he went high in the draft. Moving on down to our next player, our next pick in this draft. And we're about done with the first round. That's it. That's it for the first round. Round 2. Kind of quiet first round, I'll tell you that much. I'm trying to go through these slow. Just pause it if I go too fast on somebody. It's all good. The Jets taking Treylon Burks early in the second round. I like this fit. We know the Jets are going to be after a wide receiver. Him and Elijah Moore. Good combo there. Zach Wilson throws the deep ball. Treylon Burks can get deep. Treylon Burks has got the after catch ability. I think he'll get faded a tiny bit in rookie drafts. He's still going to have his crowd drafting him. I'm going to be drafting him up. I'm probably not even going to fade him. If not, I'll trade back and buy the dip and pick up another pick or something. But I'm still going to be on the Burks train. Even if he falls to the early second round, goes to the Jets or something like that, I'm all game on Burks. I like his play style. And if I can get him for a little bit cheaper, if I can trade out of like the 102, 103 or something like that into the 16, 17 and pick me up like an extra late pick or something to make that move, I'll do it. But I like Burks here with the Jets. Moving on down here. Let's go. Again, pause if there's a pick I scroll over too quick here. And the Seahawks got them a quarterback. Second round, Sam Howell. Quarterback from North Carolina. I just don't think this draft is going to be arranged like this. And this is just a weird exercise from the PFF. But you know how this site goes. They just want to push their metrics out and rank accordingly towards that more than likely. Sam Howell to the second. It's not like he's got a top tier first round grade. It's just the value of the position and how it's overvalued and how you want to get your guys accordingly in the actual NFL draft. So him going to 40 would be kind of a surprise to me. But here to Seattle, we don't know what's going on with DK Metcalf. Here we got to pretend he's still there. We got to pretend Tyler Lockett's still there. This team is very disgruntled. They also got Drew Lock there. A lot of weird moving pieces. Sam Howell, the prospect. I like his running ability. I like what he did during his freshman season. I liked his career overall. He's been very productive. It's just going to be interesting to see what Seattle does going forward. Whether they move on from DK, they get other receivers. If they let any of these quarterbacks cook, it's just going to be interesting. Sam Howell, though, I bet he's going to be at a decent price in Superflex leagues. Moving on down here. Seattle again going defense. Colts going defense. George Pickens to the Falcons. Very interesting spot. George Pickens and Kyle Pitts together. Who would have thought those guys would be on the same team a couple years ago? Both those guys are ballers. I would like to see a team like this of Pickens and Pitts together operating, especially once they get that quarterback play established. I think Pickens would be a major riser in this draft. I think he'd be rising rookie draft boards, and he should be. This is a good spot for him, especially long term. I think you'd also get guys who are skeptical of him, the quarterback play, the rebuild of the team. He may not jump up in some drafts. He might jump up in a lot of others. I'd be paying up for him here. I like this spot for George Pickens. You may not. Just let me know in the comments. But I like this spot for George Pickens. I think he can grow really well here. I think it's a very underrated spot for a guy like him. Moving on down here. Steele. A lot of defense. A lot of defense in this draft. Matt Corral to the Saints. And yes, he's not falling as far in the draft. I highly doubt it. We may get a quarterback fall. We might get one, but we're not getting these quarterbacks fall this deep into the second. Saints are probably going to have to pay more than that to get him. They've made a trade for a bunch of picks with the Eagles today. I'm still wrapping my brain around that. Eagles look like they were able to cash in on that. But here, Coral to the Saints, I've talked about this before because this has happened in other mock drafts. It just happened in the first round of those mock drafts. Matt Coral to the Saints. There's a lot of ambiguity here with the Saints. The cap situation, that's eventually going to hit them. That's eventually going to happen. Alvin Kamara is not getting younger. Michael Thomas is not getting younger. They're going to have to transition out of that. They're going to have to rebuild this team. This new quarterback, whoever it's going to be in, they may be going into a frustrating situation. I like Coral, though. I like this guy. He was my QB1 throughout the season. He's got some mobility. He's got a strong arm. He's got some moxie. Is rough a little bit around the edges, but all these quarterbacks are. This is just a rough quarterback class. But Matt Corral to the Saints, he could get the job done if things go right. He could transition, he could develop, he could be looking good there. Let's move on. And going back down here. Keeping on going. A lot of defense in this draft. We're not talking many skill players. Might be it, and the Packers get Rodgers, another asset here in the passing game. Trey McBride, tight end from Colorado State. This dude was very productive as a tight end, especially from a market share perspective. Killed the Senior Bowl. Was one of the best pass catchers there. Talking him and wide receivers together, he's one of the best ones there. And he did well as pro day. Ran like a 4.58 or something like that. Good size adjusted athleticism. 2.77 yards per route run here. Targeted on 30% of his routes. I like Trey McBride. I like this spot. This is going to cause his value to go through the roof. This spot right here. I could see him in situations where he goes in the first round of rookie drafts. I could see that if this happens. Second round to the Packers. Just anybody to the Packers are going to have a bump in value. Trey McBride, that tight end who was going mid-second to early third round, he would jump up early second at minimum, somewhere in the back half of that first round. Guarantee he would. I could see that. Are you willing to pay that? Are you willing to pay this much for Trey McBride, for a tight end who might take a couple years still to develop? It's not like he's coming from a Power 5 school. He's coming from a G5 school. That is a question mark. It's not like you can insert your rookies and they just take off all the time. This could be a legitimate question mark, and you could miss on one of the top wide receivers, a running back you like, a quarterback in Superflex, depending on what's going on, and you're waiting for him to develop, and then the next couple years later, you can just buy him back for a second-round rookie pick or whatever. Or you can just draft whoever you want and maybe get like a Mike Gesicki or somebody with a second-round rookie pick. However it is. But the second-round rookie pick, if you want a tight end, it's sometimes the best just to get a veteran. Moving on down here. Looking at defensive players. Calvin Austin to the Kansas City Chiefs. I hate this. I hate this pick. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. I don't like Calvin Austin that much. I don't like 5'7" wide receivers. This is like the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick all over again. And this is going to bump up his stock to something stupid too. You're going to see Calvin Austin get drafted in the second round of rookie drafts. Casual leagues, you may see him go 112 or something like that. This is stupid. 62 overall to the Chiefs. And you know what? This could happen. I mean, the Chiefs, honestly, yeah, this could happen. I could see where the fit they tried to make here. Calvin Austin has deep speed. He can blow by defenses. They lost that by trading away Tyreek Hill. They feel like they can get that back a little bit here with a 6'2" overall pick. I'm just not seeing it. I just don't see it at all here. I don't really feel like he can be productive at the next level. Since I just said that, he probably will be, so you might want to hedge that bet. But I don't like this at all. I feel like he's going to be overvalued, which is good, which will probably allow some of my targets to fall to me in the second round. Moving on down here. Keep on it. And that's it. That's it for this draft. Let me know what you think about this mock draft. Who got snubbed? Who dropped too far? Who got overdrafted? This is a weird one. PFF always has weird ones because they really want to promote their stats, their rankings, their analytics and really promote those within these mock drafts and articles and stuff too. Their rankings will be off base. Their mocks will be off base. We got a lot in this draft. Very interesting. Comment in the comments what you thought about the defensive players. If you saw somebody fall or something like that, let us know. But I want to thank you for watching the show. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. Every subscription matters. Fuels me to keep pumping out this content. Fuels me to keep pumping out these mock drafts. And this one's behind the paywall, guys. Getting you some free looks. If there's something you want me to go over, like at PFF or something, why I got these logins and stuff, let me know. I'll go over that with you. Go over it with the show or something. You get a good look at it. But here it is, PFF mock draft. But I want to thank you for watching the show, and I'll catch you next time.